Ladies and gentlemen, this is the state of the scene.
Yo, what the fuck is up, Warp Tour? The state of the scene at SOTS Podcast. Sam here with Marcos.
What's good?
Nothing.
At all? Nothing
no,
at all?
No, nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Celtics suck.
They do.
I don't have to tell you.
I don't feel like you've watched enough games this year to be able to say that, though. Like, that should be my right to say it.
Just like rebound game weak.
As if.
Defense soft.
Nah, we don't got dogs is the problem.
What does that mean?
We got a weak
The fuck does that
mindset.
mean? We don't have.
We don't have dogs.
Like, I don't know what that
look
means.
within you.
Oh,
there's not a dog within you, but there should.
There's not a single dog on the Celtics.
No dog.
Not one.
We had one.
I said one, and I put up two fingers. Am I having a fucking aneurysm right now?
Okay. Fuck you. Baby Reindeer sucks.
So I watched Baby Reindeer on Netflix, which does not suck. I told Marcus about that off air, and he's now using it against me because he's hurting, obviously.
Yeah.
So we're not going to hold that against him. Go check out Baby Reindeer on Netflix. This is a
music podcast.
This is an unpaid plug for a show that's extremely popular on an app that's even more popular. Anyways, it's like a true story about this guy who wants to be a comedian.
It's true?
Yeah, and he's followed by a serial stalker. But that's like a framing device to find out why he's so fucked up. It's a lot. Very enjoyable.
Who's the comedian?
Way that I think
Seinfeld?
his name is like Richard God or Gaff or something like that. He's
Godfrey?
he's a British comedian or like an Irish comedian or something. One of those fucking
It's Irish.
not European British Irish comedian. No, it's not Irish, but I think he might be Scottish or something. Like I don't know. I didn't
enough.
retain that aspect of. There are much more fucked up things that happen on that show besides being Scottish. So like,
No, I'm
I
not saying
retain
that is
those
fucked
things
up.
and not that thing.
Just saying I've been consuming a lot of Irish stuff lately, you know?
Sure, yeah, you got a little too much Irish stuff you've been consuming lately. Like what?
I don't really know, actually.
Like what? What's
I feel like I've been.
Jaeger? Is that Irish?
Jaeger. No, I'm in media.
Oh, I thought you've been drinking like Irish whiskey or something.
Not my thing.
In which case you'd be consuming too much. Or like, what's an Irish food? The potato?
I was trying to think of anything but. Are we allowed to say that? Do we get in trouble?
Yeah, that's not. It's not like.
I
Like
know,
I'm not making
it's
fun of the Irish for like.
You better
inventing,
not. They
like
sacrificed a lot to keep
there's
those
gotta
things
be,
growing.
There's got to be something Irish that they fucking eat over the shepherd's pie. Does that sound right? That sounds right-ish,
There's
right?
potatoes in that.
I'm trying to think when I go to an Irish restaurant, like bangers,
And mash.
That's what
they
that's
really
what,
do live that shit.
That's what we and the Irish have in
They're
common.
really
They have their
about that.
bangers, and this podcast has got some bangers coming up too. As always, every link you need in the description of this episode, including our socials, playlist, merch, and Discord. Subscribe to us on YouTube at SOTS Podcast YT, and leave a thumbs up if you're watching the video version of the show. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave 5 stars. And if you want to support us, consider becoming a patron for exclusive content, the ability to submit questions to the show, and producer credits on all of our video content. Patrons also receive access to bonus podcasts, SOTS Deluxe. Before we move forward, I'd like to apologize for the Irish. I'm actually quite fond of you. I watched that movie from last year, Banshees of Inisherin.
Inisherin?
Fucking slapped.
Inisherin.
Slapped. Amazing film. Absolutely amazing film. On this week's Deluxe, we talk Amy Lee of Evanescence offering to front Linkin Park. Plus huge news from Enter Shikari and In Heart's Wake. So got a fucking banger deluxe locked in for you. That's only $3 a month. You get a new episode every week. Little extra content. Chip in. On this week's Ranking the Scene, our YouTube exclusive show airing every Wednesday night, where we bring new albums to an ever-growing tier list and rank them against every album that's come before and preemptively against every album that's come after to figure out what the greatest album in the whole scene is of all time, ever. And the worst.
Who do we have this week?
Parkway Drive, Miss May I, and Micah Relocate, bro.
Damn.
We dug deep. That was a great suggestion by a patron. These, as a matter of fact, are all suggestions by patrons. If you want to suggest an album to bring to Ranking the Scene, once again, patreon.com/SOTS podcast to support the show. Only $3 a month. Mark's dated discourse this week. Bring me the horizon are accused of Satanism. What does the guy from Stranger Things do? The Satanic Panic is alive and well in the metal scene as Christian scene kids across the globe clutch to their cross necklaces in shock when Bring Me the Horizon shared a poster for their show in Brisbane with support from Sleep Token, Make Them Suffer, and Dane that read, "If Jesus Christ returns, we'll just kill that fucker 2 times."
Double tap.
One individual Christian, Twitter user Melanie Mack, created a video declaring that they had never seen the band be this egregiously against the Christian faith, I'm paraphrasing, and stated they would be removing Bring Me the Horizon from all their playlists. Twitter user Minus the Brand posted in response to that, "Damn, I don't want this to be real. They're one of the few bands I've just gotten into this past year that I think are amazing. Where did you find this?" And obviously it came from that poster for their show in Brisbane with support from Make Them Suffer, Sleep Token, and Dane. It already passed. Okay. Many other Bring Me the Horizon fans were largely perplexed by the entire situation, as the band has, in the past 2 decades, not been shy about their sentiment towards organized religion. Twitter user 3Treprel posted on Twitter a shirt they purchased from the band, quote, like a decade ago, unquote, that read, quote, "Fuck your faith," unquote. Twitter user TwistZ shared a capture of lyrics for the band's 2020 song Dear Diary off of the one and only post-human album we've gotten in the last 8 years, reading, quote, "God is a shithead," unquote. Twitter user Ludin, obviously a Bring Me the Horizon fan, shared a photo of Ollie Sykes wearing a shirt that read, and I quote, "Jesus is a cunt. Marcos have Bring Me the Horizon crossed a line in their blasphemy. Is there any saving this band? Is the Satanic Panic here to stay?"
Satanic Panic is alive and well.
Let's fucking go.
And I kind of missed it.
Yeah, I missed it a little bit too. You know,
I kind of like, this is something that builds.
I missed it because I wasn't around to enjoy the first one. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, it's a real like community building thing. Yeah. Like suddenly, like I am raging against these religions with my peers.
It's only a matter of time till churches start standing outside the venue where Bring Me the Horizon is playing and like shouting at them and like boycotting and like protesting.
We don't see it enough. I feel like the last time it was ever even acknowledged was the Motionless in White video where Chris like fucking drop kicks.
Oh, Immaculate Misconception.
Yeah.
He
drop kicks a fucking protester for like spitting in his face.
That was 25 years ago right now.
Yeah, Motionless in White is a Christian band still, though.
This is like the second coming of the Westboro Baptist Church, but it's coming from inside. These are scene kids.
These are scene kids. That is the funniest part here is people trying to play off the fact that like they didn't know anything about how this band is or how they act. I don't know if it's like I hate calling this out specifically, but it's
go ahead, call it out.
I don't know if it's like this influx of fans that have arrived from
Say
TikTok,
the word. Yeah,
words, who have only really heard like 5 or 6 of these songs, and you know it's not the Antivis that's gone viral. It's not a number of their other tracks that have some of that more, like, you know, Dear Diary didn't go viral or anything. So maybe these are songs they hadn't checked out. But at the same time, like, again, Bring Me has always been extremely vocal about this stuff. Also religious like imagery, whether for or against or whatever they're using it for, like it's always been extremely present in their aesthetic and their imagery.
You would say even as most recently the Kool-Aid music video, which felt like it harkened back to like early 1700s Catholicism.
Yeah, didn't they put like a priest in there like sinning?
Or 1800s or some shit? I don't fucking know. Yeah, I mean it was like obviously hinted at, but like clearly these scene Christians need it spelt out on paper in an Instagram post in order to like realize it's there.
You know, maybe they saw like the Amen video, or they only saw like the title of that song and they were like, oh shit, like some good Christian music right here.
Do you think a lot of this would have been solved if For Stevie Wonder's Eyes Only had been the song to go popular on TikTok?
Is that a super satanic song? I forgot.
No, it's not a super satanic song, but it's got some choice lyrics
well,
within it.
They've got what is it? Fucking, I've heard about Girls Like You on the back of like toilet stalls something or another?
It's actually
Football season is over, where it's like I
common
should have fucking
misconception.
pissed on you.
No, those are actually
that was a
those are
viral fucking
pro-Christian
TikTok
songs.
sound.
That's a common misconception. Wait, it was?
Yeah. It's a weird one because it's
then
like,
then I
it's
won't
come
stand
and
for this
gone.
naivety. You knew what you were listening to. Live with it. You were fucking into Bring Me the Horizon. You knew you shouldn't have been. Shame. Shame.
Not like my favorite poster from Bring Me though. I feel like I don't.
You've seen better posters from Bring Me?
Yeah, I've seen better posters from Bring Me.
I mean, they kind of like
the fucking Brazilian poster. I'm sure we'll get into it.
Oh my god, the Brazil. We're not going to get into it because this is all we're talking about as far as Bring Me the Horizon comes.
Okay,
this
so
episode.
like take these Australian shows they perform with Sleep Token versus that Brazilian date that they're doing with fucking Motionless in White, Spirit Box, some other band I think. That's a poster right there.
Yeah,
that's a goddamn honest to god poster.
For those who haven't seen it, anime girl on her knees, bat wings.
You'll edit it in post.
But obviously Australians hate anime. Fucking hate it with a passion.
I don't think
so. That's
true.
why they get like a little plain poster with a little
band
text.
That's from Australia this week that clearly loves anime.
Oh fuck. Oh, you're right. All right, I take all that back. Patreon questions this week, Marcus. If you want to write into the show, patreon.com/SOTS podcast. Casey would like to know if we have any thoughts about Seiyoshin bringing Cove Rebber back. They say this is what I've been wanting from Seiyoshin for many years now. Thoughts?
I'm right there with you, Casey. I think I've always preferred personally my Cove Seiyoshin over
Same.
Yeah, over Anthony. And
that was my Seiyoshin is part of the reason. Like that was my Seiyoshin.
Right. And I think
that's when I came in.
I think I'm ultimately burned too because this band starts with Anthony. He leaves, he's booted, whatever. Go to Cove. And then Cove leaves, booted, whatever again. And then for like 5-6 years, they're like, oh, we're going to find another vocalist. And, you know, there's rumors of this guy or that guy. Ultimately, they land back on Anthony Green. They release an album, and then they do nothing for like 5-6 years after that. So I'm like burnt on that whole thing, and I feel like we should have never booted Cove.
I agree with that.
I feel like we'd have 4 more fucking Seiyoshin albums than we do today.
100% agree with you.
So I feel like we're just starting like this should have never like even been a thing. Like we should have always been at this moment right here.
Period. Jacob asks, what do you guys like to do while listening to music? It feels like an album can hit me totally differently depending on what I'm doing. For example, Dayseeker's Replica kind of bounced off me while I was playing Helldivers, out now on PlayStation 5, but threw it on while taking a night drive and it instantly clicked. Curious what you do and how you find the time. Margos?
Night drive is the preferred.
That's ideal music listening
preferred.
time.
Especially if I sort of like, if I've got a good understanding of what the album is going to be or who the band is.
Yeah.
Like Dayseeker Replica, like that is an album that I would, if offered the opportunity, it would be at night, whether early morning, late at night, a drive album for me.
Sure. What do you, is there like a general, like what are you most often doing when you listen to music?
Driving for sure.
Okay.
Walking the dog, things like that. Nothing crazy. What is like the craziest you've ever listened? Like, what's the craziest way you've ever listened to an album?
The craziest way I've ever listened to an album is I mean, I don't think I really have anything that's like that out of the ordinary.
You weren't like rock climbing? I don't know.
I like to listen to music when I exercise. So like on the treadmill, obviously something a little bit more high tempo is helpful. I'm like back and forth with playing video games, listening to music. I generally prefer podcasts when I do that. I'm more podcast when I drive. More often than not, I'm listening to music when I'm working because I feel like it helps me. It keeps me focused, or when I exercise because usually that's like best time to listen to metalcore. Personally, that's how
this is
that's
all
how
fair.
I feel.
Also, realistically, the answer for me is like just fucking doom scrolling. I have like an AirPod in, and I'm just listening to music.
I've been listening to music a lot lately when I've been putting the show together. So that makes sense.
It lends itself to it.
Mm-hmm. Listening to an acoustic Dayseeker album while playing Helldivers is actually low-key very funny. Because
that's such a difference though, because I feel like it may bounce off of you, but in this instance, you feel like you'd already be familiar with those songs.
Yeah, but I feel like they're not like matching the medium. You know what I mean? Like,
No, not wrong.
like whatever fast-paced fucking bug murdering you're doing is not like suited for the dulcet tones of Rory Rodriguez.
As a certified
Not suited.
gamer,
Yeah.
what would you recommend to listen to?
While playing Helldivers specifically?
That and to listen to Replica playing what?
Ooh, wow. Okay.
So both two questions.
I feel like if you're gonna be playing Replica, you want to be do something incredibly low key. So let's talk like what's that fucking farm simulation fucking Star
Animal Crossing?
No, the other the
Stardew Valley.
Yeah, that one. That's like a
I don't know about
that's
that.
a basic Replica game. If I'm playing Helldivers, I'm doing some killing. I'm doing some murdering.
You've never played it.
doing some slaughtering.
You still haven't played it.
I'm doing some exterminating.
Still have not played it.
Yeah, but I understand the vibes. I think it's slightly futuristic, but also heavy. We're gonna talk about it in a little bit.
Okay.
So brace yourself.
Fair enough.
Andrew W asks, "What's your favorite food?" For me, that would be Mexican food. It's delicious. But a close second is Irish food.
Big Irish food guys here at the SOTS podcast.
That's correct.
Appetizers, right?
Appetizers
Can't go wrong. Appetizers is like a food group.
I don't think it is.
Like I'm not talking like just mozzarella sticks.
Do you have like a
that shit.
specific appetizer?
Like calamari?
Okay.
All right, on some shit
You ever
type shit I be on. Okay.
You ever do full appetizer meal, tapa style?
No, that's what I mean. Like Spanish ancestry here, like tapa style, bro.
Yeah, but you ever do like tapa style at like a Chili's? You know what I mean?
I don't know if you're allowed.
Tapa
I feel
style,
like they
like
kick you out.
Like a cheesecake factory?
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Cheesecake is solid.
That's your other favorite food, cheesecake?
Calamari and cheesecake.
Sam C asks, what's the best concert you've ever been to? We'll accept a top 3 or top 5.
Concert.
Yeah, that's correct. Trying to think of I feel like I'd like to give like a different answer.
We've
Like every
been to a
time.
lot.
You know what I mean? Like what's a band or a concert I haven't like spoken about in a long time? We saw the Plot in You in like a small room right around the time fucking like My Old Ways came out and shit like that. That was crazy. I want to say Dayseeker might have been on that show too.
I think you're right. I think you're definitely
And that was
right.
like right around the time like I think the track was called like was it like wasn't Vulture? It was like the heavier track from like Sleep
Crows?
Talk?
Something. Yeah, Vulture.
Was it Vulture? Yeah.
Vultures? I don't know.
So today I've decided I'm gonna go with that as my number 1.
For whatever reason, I always hold, because I think it was also the first time we were in this venue. It's Paradise Rock, in Boston. We saw Enter Shikari headline.
Yeah.
With, I believe it was At the Skylines and Let Live. Yeah. And for me, that's like one of the most rock solid fucking groupings you could ever fucking ask for.
Enter Shikari never had a bad show. Never had a bad show.
Let Live never had a bad show. The one time we caught At the Skylines, I like fucking went and bought a hoodie. I was like fucking impressed.
And we've always talked about some recent ones like Sleep Token and Imminence were pretty spectacular.
Yeah, but like the difference with those, like that Sleep Token show, as incredible as seeing that band live was, I didn't like the opener. I didn't enjoy that experience.
Oh, so you're saying like the bill wasn't perfect?
Yeah.
You need a perfect bill?
To enjoy a show, I'd like a perfect
bill.
I'd like one.
I remember we saw Ice Nine Kills with like Fit for a King, like downstairs at the Palladium.
Yes.
Fucking packed. People on top of people on top of
Did
people.
we?
Yeah. 100%.
We've been to too many shows. I'm forgetting. My memory is...
Because I always remember it as the show that Make Them Suffer was supposed to be on, and then they weren't. And then I think like Light the Torch were on it or something. You and I showed up fuck-ass late. Fuck-ass late.
I remember that.
Caught that Fit for a King set. Caught that Ice Nine Kill set.
Yes,
absolutely spectacular. Caillou asks, do you have any band-related tattoos? Would you consider getting any? I get a rose on my arm where the petals are like floating up. Kind of like how like tears float up when they're down in the well with Pennywise. And this isn't exactly a band tattoo, but when I listen to like Dead Rose by Chelsea Grin, I like kind of decided I wanted like a Dying Rose on my arm. And then I feel like there's also a Bless the Fall song called,
Black
like,
Rose Dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my like own crafted lore within my brain, this tattoo is band related, but not in any way that would be immediately relevant to anyone who ever saw it.
Fair. I kind of like that though. It's subtle. It's the subtlety. Mine are less subtle. I've got 3. All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us, which you can't really see.
I mean,
Just that artwork.
I can make it out.
Tom Cyril Forever. The single artwork for Palisades Fall, which I always just like the
Rest in peace and peace.
minimalism. And then I've got the fucking Boston Manor balaclava.
You got quite a few, actually.
Boston Manor did it first, I'll always say.
3. Oh, like, and everyone else has stolen it since.
I'm not
That's
saying
kind of the vibe?
stolen is a heavy word.
Stolen it
Just
since.
saying, like, everyone will see the balaclava and they'll be like, Bad Omens fan. And I'm like, I mean, absolutely yes. But in this instance, it's Boston Manor.
Let's branch out. You got a band tattoo. Comment down below.
Yes.
On our YouTube. Kane asks, since Knocked Loose and Kublai Khan Texas are getting so big right now.
I like how you pronounce that.
Kublai Khan. Have you ever checked out any 90s metalcore? Converge, Rorschach, Botch, Coalesce, Unbroken? Would you ever do a review/react to classic metalcore albums that kicked off the genre? Marcos, thoughts?
I think we would. Have I done it? No.
I've never gone out of my way to do it either. Have I probably like inadvertently heard some and not realized it? Sure. I've been to shows and heard music in between bands before. I'm guaranteed one of them probably played some shit I'd never recognized.
I don't know how old they are, but I feel like the oldest
90s.
metalcore
They're 30 years old.
I've listened to is like Darkest Hour.
I mean, Darkest Hour, I feel like
they're not, right?
like a late 90s, I would think. Like, to be like, I think like Every Time I Die is like late 90s technically.
Technically, Under Oath is.
Yeah. But that's probably like, there's always so much new music that I rarely find myself like going back and trying to hunt down bands that came out like 20 years ago that I never got a chance to check out. But maybe someday, like it's not like I'm not familiar with the names like Converge and Botch and Coalesce. Like, I know of them. I've just never gone out of my way to listen to them. Apologies to any old heads out there, Marcos. Let's talk about them new heads and review some albums.
The Breakdown.
Angel Killer Zero by Diamond Construct. This is the Terry New South Wales outfits. New South Wales, of course, in Australia. It's their second studio album, released the 26th of April via Pale Chord Records. Angel Killer Zero consists of 11 tracks and is the follow-up to the band's self-titled debut LP from 2019 and 2020's DCX2 EP.
Okay. We've had this band in our sights, right? We talked about them before. We've covered them.
Yeah, hell, I mean, they have like one of my favorite heavy songs from the past couple of years, which isn't featured on this album, unfortunately, but it's called Hit It Back.
Yeah.
And I think this band recently kicked off a tour, and I know that they posted on Instagram or something, like, first show, the first show is a success when you play Hit It Back twice. And it's like, God damn, I wish I was there.
Australians too lucky.
Australians
get
too lucky.
Living my best life, Australians. Let's just go ahead and say it, Marcos. Call the Hospice. This is one of the 6 fucking bands I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, 100%. This brings like a new definition, or this raises the bar for what can or cannot be called bouncy.
Okay.
This is bouncy. Listen to a song like Clickbait on this album.
Mm-hmm.
That is the definition of bouncy. All these other metalcore bands don't even know what bouncy means.
No
yet.
idea. I'm completely unfamiliar.
This is the new fucking
Redefined.
The bar, okay?
Speaking of bars, quite a few of them dropped.
A little bit. Yeah, for those who don't know, like, this band is essentially a metalcore band, but like it spans a lot of different, subgenres in that. Like, new metal,
They feel like they were inspired by everything they ever listened to. Yeah.
I hear like crunkcore all over this record, especially in the track. I think it's Neon on this record. Just 100% trying a bunch of different cool things.
It's got that fuck around energy when it comes to electronics that like Asking Alexandria had on like their first album.
A little bit.
It was just like hard pivots like that come absolutely out of nowhere. I think for me, the moment on this record, like where I was completely locked in 100 was Neon.
Really?
Neon, when like you get 20 seconds in and they do like that down-tuned fucking like drop.
It's pretty fucking cool.
Lost my goddamn mind. Absolutely lost my fucking mind.
So it's funny. I didn't super enjoy Neon at first. I thought it was a little bit repetitive.
Can't even comprehend.
But on
feeling.
Repeated listens, ended up being one of my favorite tracks on here, but not the favorite for me.
Thank God.
I think Switchblade OST, which was, I believe, the lead single off of Angel Killer Zero. Angel Killer Zero or Angel Zero Killer? Angel Killer Zero.
Angel Killer
I've
Zero.
screwed it up like 9 different times.
It's got to be, what are we thinking? I know I said earlier that Australians don't fuck with anime. Obviously they do, because this band is like...
Hashira is what they call ranked demons in Demon Slayer, I think.
Jinx is straight out of Arcane.
OST right out of Bad Omen song.
Yeah. But they do this thing at like the end of a couple songs where they have like some spoken word shit, and like 0% chance that's not an anime girl delivering a dialogue in a movie.
Right, like something dubbed from like in Akira or something. Like who the fuck knows?
I almost like need to know like right this instant. I bet you Angel Killer Zero. What are we thinking? Like Neon Genesis Evangelion?
I feel like you're not going to be able to find out. I bet you
I fucking find out the fastest anyone's ever fucking found out in a fucking heartbeat, bro. The fastest anyone's ever. The quickest.
Search anime at the end of it.
The most fast. And
he hasn't found it.
So quick right now. Fill for time.
You touched on it though. So one of my favorite aspects of this record isn't just that they add in like some flavor with these little interludes, but I appreciate that they are not actual interludes, that we actually include them at the beginning and the end of full-fledged songs. We don't just like break these things off and make them like their own 20-30 second thing.
Yeah.
And I think as a result, for me, instead of looking at like a 16 track album, keeping it 11 but still doing all that fancy shit keeps me way more engaged.
I was like completely immersed in this album from start to finish, and then again and again and again. This is one of the easiest records all year to run back. I think that I want to give a little shout out to Faded too. Faded
is for me the runaway track,
strongest melody on the whole album.
And there's not many, which I also do appreciate. This band doesn't just like, there's not one song on this album repeated 11 times. There's a bunch of different versions of this band all over this record, and tracks like Faded and Hell Inside You and Jinx are all very different songs. That's what I appreciate.
The only thing repeated ad nauseum here is turning that bass up to like 1,000 on every single song, but it fucking moves me.
So
I loved it.
I thought you were going to bring up the fact that r/metalcore had a mini crisis over this album.
All right. So side note, a user on r/metalcore, whose name escapes me, did the math and said there's like an average of 8 fucks per song, which, you know, we're now finding out that r/metalcore is also Christian too, which is barely too much for them. Yes.
They said they have to find a different curse word to use, and I disagree. I feel like you tell me an album has 56 fucks on it, and suddenly I'm super interested in hearing it.
Actually, based on what they're saying, we're coming up on 80 plus fucks.
80 plus fucks?
80 plus fucks.
I feel like I saw the 56 out there, but maybe I'm wrong.
I gotta be honest. Fuck to me just like completely bounces off of me, not in in a negative way, but in a sense that like it doesn't even register anymore. That's just language. They were just using language. They were just showing emotion.
I mean, so yes, but it also, especially the dichotomy between how this album opens up and the next album we are reviewing is so fucking funny. And
this podcast has some rage. Yeah.
Two
of those diametrically opposed records you've heard all year.
Sure. but specifically in the opening tracks and like the opening words, Shira starts with like, shut the fuck up. And like, so you're saying like it bounces off of you, but I hear that and I'm immediately fucking locked in.
I guess I mean it bounces off to me in a sense that it does not affect the moral.
I thought you meant like it doesn't even register that the word was used.
I mean, like, unless you point it out to me, I guess what I mean to say is that it didn't register to me that they used the word fuck 8 times per song. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like in that sense, it did not register for me. Yes, in some instances, it is utilized very well and it hits. I won't disagree with you there.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think that this band continues to be one of the more just refreshing bands out there. I have been really in love with everything Diamond Construct has
very
done over the years.
Forward thinking.
Yeah. And that continues with this album.
Great, Marcus. We also checked out
Let's Start Degeneracy by Microwave. This is the Atlanta Outfit's 4th studio album, released the 26th of April via Pure Noise Records. Let's Start Degeneracy consists of 10 tracks and is the much anticipated album, the follow-up to 2019's Death is a Warm Blanket LP, which is a great album title. The album title comes from a conservative politician's take on drugs in 1970. It also forms the acronym LSD. Which is a drug, as we all know.
Yeah.
According to a press release, the lyrics are loaded with revelations that partly came to vocalist / guitarist Nathan Hardy after experimenting with ayahuasca.
That's correct.
In Peru with drummer Timothy Tito Petard.
Ayahuasca is a drug.
We'll have to fact check. I don't know.
I'm fairly 100%.
They continue. It's about letting go of attachments and behaviors that aren't serving you. The album is. And trying to shake off programming and not shake off your programming and not be motivated by fear and guilt and shame, says Nathan. It's about learning to be happy and take care of yourself. The band expands further on an interview with Cue the Music, and I just wanted to include some of this. Psychedelics hold a special place for me, Hardy said. He says he suffers from obsessive compulsive disorder and took prescription drugs like Zoloft for much of his life to cope. But the frontman was able to stop when he and drummer Tito started microdosing psychedelics after the release of their sophomore effort, Much Love, in 2016. That's why a 1970 edition of Playboy caught the frontman's eye while he was browsing an antique store.
Yeah, that's why.
Stop. The new album's title was gleaned from a roundtable discussion about drugs published in that issue. Everyone forgets Playboy published roundtable discussion, Sam.
North remembers.
The panel included quotes from several psychedelic advocates like William S. Burroughs and Ram Dass, but the record's title was uttered by prohibitionist Harry J. Anslinger, who helped outlaw cannabis in 1937 as the first commissioner of the U.S. Treasury Department's Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Anslinger had no love for LSD either, and outlawed that substance in the U.S. in 1968. So just all around not very fun guy.
Mm-hmm. He did have a full spread in that issue as well, though. So.
He sure did. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
The principal side effect of taking it is pregnancy, Anslinger said. We should call LSD Let's Start Degeneracy. Sam, did you know that if you do LSD, you'll get pregnant?
Is the math? Is the science?
Is the math?
I don't know if the science is sciencing correctly on that one.
Right.
But I'm going to go with it. For the sake of this discussion, I'm going to roll with it.
A few more notes from Q,
yeah.
Sam. Frontman Nathan Hardy knocked out most of the production for Let's Start Degeneracy in his home studio. He wanted to create something cleaner and more mainstream. The last record was notated as having a more like live rock experience type of energy to it, and they wanted to actually get away from that on this record.
This is both our introduction into microwave. Is that correct?
I believe so. I was going to ask you, because I don't remember ever discussing that album on the show or any EP beforehand.
I think like microwave really just came up recently when we checked out a single of theirs leading up to, and because I remember we discussed the LSD type beat back when we talked about that song.
Yeah. Nathan continues, I like the larger than life Bring Me the Horizon type mixes, the frontman said. Hardy added artists shouldn't be intimidated by the thought of producing their own records. I feel like it makes sense for bands to record themselves. You can watch a few YouTube videos and record your stuff at home and save a lot of money.
It's such a funny thought to me that somebody would in one sentence be like, we wanted this new record to sound like Bring Me the Horizon, so we produced it ourselves.
We'll just watch a couple videos.
There's like a level of confidence there that is absolutely like insane. You know what I mean?
Everyone knows Jordan Fish learned how to produce watching YouTube videos.
If I found out that was true, that would actually be incredibly like impressive, obviously. But I will say, before we get there, production fucking solid on this album.
We'll get into it. Hardy also told Q he recruited his girlfriend to sing a hymn called Softly and Tenderly Jesus is Calling, which Johnny Cash performed on his 1975 gospel album Johnny Cash Sings Precious Memories. Excuse me. Religion isn't a big part of Hardy's life these days, but it was while he was growing up in a devout Mormon household. The songwriter penned some of the band's earliest material while serving as a missionary for the church.
That's fascinating.
This is extremely fascinating considering the satanic panic happening around Bring Me the Horizon right the second, Sam.
Now it's time for Mormon panic.
After leaving the faith, Hardy rebelled against his sober upbringing.
Okay.
And that leads us to this album.
Yeah, Bored of Being Sad was the single I was talking about earlier when we first discussed this band. Prior to that, I had heard the single Ferrari. It's actually what enticed me to check out Bored of Being Sad when it came out and then, bring it to the show for us to discuss alongside the announcement that this album had come out. And it's really only those two singles, I believe, that I heard prior to going into this album.
I believe it did have two more in Circling the Drain and LSD, but I do not believe we had heard them. And what I'll tell you, Sam, is I'm pretty happy I've heard this album because for me, it is one of the biggest surprises of the fucking year.
Agree completely. So just to establish a couple things based on the information that we sort of expelled prior to getting into this, Portals would be the Johnny Cash cover.
Yes. And it's not called Portals by Johnny Crash.
Right. The song on the album is called Portals, but it features his, I want to make sure I have this correct.
Him
girlfriend singing a hymn called Softly and Tenderly Jesus Calling.
Right. And I didn't know that heading into this album.
No, I just thought like, oh, here's sort of like a Christian hymn to kick this album off. And I'm like, well, this is not at all like the energy I expected going into this record, but it is like, it immediately hooked me. It like, this is more interesting than anything I could have expected would kick this record off.
It also scared me a little bit because I was like, am I under the impression that Microwave is a different band than they actually are? Because I don't know if I would have liked this album if it stayed this way on track 2 and track 3. And
yeah, but
4.
you knew better. You knew what was going to say like that completely.
Did.
You had heard at least one single. You knew the inspiration behind the album. Had it been 10 Christian hymns or not, I mean, I guess Christian hymns. Like I know it's a Johnny Cash singing a hymn.
It's gospel.
Gospel album, yeah.
It does though, because like this continues on and suddenly it's like that fucking Shaq meme. And it's like, I apologize. I was not familiar with your game.
Precisely. That came from Shaq?
It did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Who was he talking about at the time?
Christian Wood.
The transition from Portals in the Ferrari is so fucking clear. It's beautiful. Like that energy of the intro into what feels like a little bit of like degenerate core was astoundingly well done. Ferrari is one of my absolute favorite songs on this album. This album in general is sort of rich with like little lyrical nutrients that you can kind of like pluck out and like sort of like mull over in your mind and like digest in your tummy. And there's one line in Ferrari that's I'm blurring the lines between freelance and homeless, and I'm paraphrasing, that absolutely fucking stuck with me from the jump because it was such an elegant way of like describing their current like state of existence, and I thought it was beautiful.
There's
was,
another
like,
lyric
masterful.
on, it might be Bored of Being Sad or Straw Hat, where it starts off with like, this is an aristocracy. Nobody cares about your feelings or something like that. It's a strange album because
It is a bizarre album in a really enjoyable way.
Everything feels so subtle about it, whether it's the production or the lyrics. Because at face value, it feels like a very simple record, but there is so much happening in the background that I think really pushes it over the edge for me.
Yeah, there's a lot to nibble on.
So like it feels very grounded, but then you really start to pay attention to like some of those lyrics, and it's just sort of impressive how much they are packing into every moment. And that also plays from a production angle as well, because the amount of texture and layering that they manage to pack into every single fucking moment on this album is really impressive. And you all really start to notice it around like LSD. And then this band goes on like a fucking LSD to Omni to Strangers, all the way down to like Hooperzine, which I think is how you pronounce that.
I'm gonna go
closing
with
track.
Hooperzine, but I'm not positive either.
I think that's when this album really hits a fucking stride. I think that like early on it's packed full of good songs, but like it's those like Maggie Rogers Alaska type electronics
Wow, what a pull.
on LSD that really pull me in, and then I'm seated for the rest of the experience. But that's not to say I don't really love like the super pop punk leaning tracks like Ferrari and Circling the Drain. But yeah, like lyrically, that's
Circling
like
the
one
Drain
of,
and Bored of Being Sad. I don't know that I'd put Ferrari in the conversation for more pop punk. Ferrari's more of a vibey song.
Yeah, I mean, it's all a very vibey record for sure.
I would put Ferrari more akin to something like Strangers, which is like another song that's like more low tempo, but Strangers feels like it takes it steps even further, and it's incredibly mellow, and it didn't quite click for me the first time around, but it really grew on me after multiple listens. I think the crowning achievement of this whole record is Concertito, which is like this little piano medley that is amplified by the sound of someone like singing in the shower in the far distance. Like it's a real sort of like little artistic swing that I found to be absolutely brilliant and completely mesmerizing and out of left field. And maybe I should have seen that coming based on how the album starts. That something like this could have been buried a little deeper, but when it hit, I was completely like flabbergasted, and I adored it.
Yeah, I think like the one of the lyrics that she's singing or something is like, I don't care who's watching as she's showering or something.
I could like almost barely pick up on it, but that's almost like what I liked about it. But that's interesting that you like were able to kind of like
Atmosphere in general, like that song, Portal specifically, this band does it so
gorgeous.
Like Portals with like the outside, like whatever those fucking annoying ass fucking bugs are outside that fucking
cicadas.
Yeah, that just be making fucking hella noise at night.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
There's so much
Or, like,
atmosphere. There's just a lot of like stuff happening.
Yeah, it's very rich. There's a lot of texture. You can really sort of like get a wash in everything this band is doing. Just kind of like shut your brain off and
like,
let it kind of like consume you.
I feel like the band doesn't like present that to you or anything. It's just like they know that when you hear it, you'll hear it. Like it all feels very understated, I guess, or it's a very unassuming album.
I think that because I don't have a reference point for the type of drug use that they speak to in this, but there's something about, in my mind, this record being a trip, and thinking about how this band was talking about like taking ayahuasca and stuff like that, that I think this album is meant to maybe sort of let your mind sort of like travel, and in that way I feel like a lot of like they were inspired to do a lot of this, and that inspiration like translates, and you can kind of like just shut your brain off and let it just sort of go with the flow that is this record.
Yeah,
right? But that's me. That's me, like kind of like grasping at straws a little bit.
I'm sure all the ayahuasca heads out there can confirm that like listening to this on that is crazier. But
given that that's all the inspiration, I would have to, or I'm comfortable assuming that thinking that a lot of those things would correlate makes sense, right?
Sure. I was extremely blown away by this one.
Yeah.
I was extremely happy with it.
I was very pleased with it as well. Marcus, as always, the news is brought to you by Shibori Threads, the clothing label of the alternative music scene.
The news.
Black Veil Brides return with a new single, Bleeders. New EP of the same name will release June 21st through Spine Farm Records. It follows up 2022 EP The Morning, their final release for Sumerian, their home for 2020 reimagined album Restitch These Wounds, and 2021 full-length album The Phantom Tomorrow. The Bleeders EP will feature 2 more songs in addition to the title track, a rendition of the track My Friends from the Sweeney Todd film, of which this single is inspired as well, and a cover of classic U2 song Sunday Bloody Sunday. The band are currently headlining the Bleeders tour with support from Creeper, Dark Divine, and Ghost Kid. The tour is working in partnership with the American Red Cross, and fans of the band have pledged upwards of 1,600 pints of blood at the time of this recording. Per the band's campaign, those who attend any show on this tour and provide proof of blood donation or an upcoming appointment will receive a signed band poster and other memorabilia. Black Veil Brides currently stand at 2.3 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Marcos, where do you want to start?
I was not familiar with U2's game.
You didn't know U2?
Sunday Bloody Sunday's U2?
Yeah, that's correct. U2 had
I didn't realize they had one banger in them.
a few. They had like a few. They had like, I think they also had a song called like Werewolf in London or something like that. That's got, it kind of hits.
That's
It kinda
U2
hits.
too?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. U2 isn't all whatever
Yes.
fucking trash ass album they uploaded to your iPhone 15 years ago. Like they had some heat. They had some heat back in the day, like when they started.
Well,
U2 is just like is just like every other band, right? They start off cleanest shit you've ever heard in your life, and then 35 years later, they make a lot of mid.
I
But
guess.
they're still here.
That's disappointing. They should go back to those days.
Black Veil Brides, though, Marcus, how would you compare this to their catalog to date?
I think Black Veil Brides continue to be on a fucking tear between the Phantom Menace, whatever that album was called.
The Phantom Tomorrow.
Yeah. Those EPs, that EP that they dropped.
That EP, The
that
Morning.
EP. And now this song, and honestly this video as well. I'm loving the production value.
Production value is astounding.
Astounding.
Astounding. So,
A lot
it's-
of effort went into this video being filmed.
there should be a reaction over on our YouTube channel, assuming, once again, that DMCA does not claim another victim in its mission to ruin YouTube. And we're talking about it, you know, as we're watching it, and you know, I let you know that I've never seen Sweeney Todd, but you had, and it's sort of both of our understanding combined, though, that this is meant to be sort of like a recreation of the film in some capacity. Like I'm like there's other shots of like the band playing in like a music box as it's spinning that like I'm assuming are not in the film, but like all of the stuff that happens in the fucking barbershop, like people get stabbed in the fucking neck, are from the film itself.
Yeah, I think so. From what I can remember, this all felt very familiar. Okay.
Yeah.
And we also see Andy Black die at the end.
Yeah,
So a lot of shit happening.
Spoilers for the brand new music video from Black Veil Brides Bleeders. But a young little boy walks into that barbershop and murders,
And pops him in the fucking
and
dome.
finishes them off
With a gun.
a gun blade. Very anime style. Yeah, it was just like all the production value, like you said, the costumes, makeup, everything was just like a 10 on 10. Like, I think it immediately, for me, exceeds the vast majority of the videos that we got from the Phantom Tomorrow era. Because I think that while I like the imagery that was like accompanying things like the Scarlet Cross and what they were bringing to the table, this feels much more suited to Black Veil Brides for me. This darkness, this like patchy New England or England fog,
Old England
fog. There's like the jackets.
They're
like,
on rooftops.
Yeah, it all was working for me exceptionally well. And then can we just get it out of the way, Marcus? This feels a little Ice Nine Kills Motionless in White inspired. I'm sorry. And not just because it takes influence from a horror movie, but we get a little bit of
a musical.
A legitimate breakdown in a Black Veil Bride song in a way that like I feel like has been completely absent.
They've been there.
For the vast majority.
They've been there.
Like this though, this feels like, is it just because it was combined with him like murdering someone that it hit a little harder? Like, does it just hit a little harder when you murder someone in the music video?
It's partly that.
He screams a bit. Andy does a little screaming.
A little bit. I think it's a really cool breakdown. I like that this is them sort of expanding on their sound even further. I don't know what else to add.
How do you feel about the other two? How do you feel about the other two songs on the EP? I guess we're sort of getting like a pseudo original in a cover.
Slow down. I just wanted to touch on again like the whole Ice Nine Kills, especially that comparison. I think it's fine. I think it's good. I think that there's still plenty of space for things like that.
Yeah. For me personally, we have not even begun to climb close to the amount of horror movies I need to be covered by these bands. Precisely. Yeah. Like there's hundreds of thousands out there. We could expand this to at least 30 more bands until it became tiresome.
Yeah. And I think that like, I mean, Ice Nine Kills is off the fucking, they've gone off the deep end. We weren't getting a Sweeney Todd song on this next album.
You don't think so?
It's going to be like fucking Killer Clowns from Outer Space or whatever the fuck that shit's called. It's going to be like weird shit, I'm willing to bet.
You think it's going to be weird shit?
I bet. These other songs.
I'm very optimistic about this EP, though. I do wish that there were more songs on it. Hopefully, this is like a little warm-up to the big thing that's coming next, right?
Yeah,
because it's
one original song.
3 years since the last full length, and I know we got an EP in between that and now, but I just want more. I just want
new
more.
labels. Kick off with an EP album shortly after.
Ideally.
I'm down for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say for sure. 21 Pilots have dropped a new single, Backslide.
Bad place on $100 base. Kinda wishing that I never did Saturday. Is that a stain? You should change. Are you doing good? Did you solve all of your problems? Thanks for asking in a way, but...
The band also announced that new album Clancy would be delayed 1 week to May 24th to allow the band to complete their vision of having a music video for each track on the album the day it releases, which will not be the same day as the new album from Billie Eilish. Backslide is the third single off the album following Overcompensate and Next Semester, which hold approximately 26 million and 13 million streams on Spotify today. I also believe that as of today, Overcompensate has gone #1 on alternative radio. The music video for Backslide was the directorial debut for member and drummer Josh Dunn. The Clancy World Tour kicks off August 15th in Denver, Colorado, and it will go through the following year, closing with back-to-back dates at the O2 in London on May 13th and 14th. 21 Pilots currently command 27.2 million monthly listeners on Spotify.
That's decent.
Marcus, do you get overly optimistic, maybe a little bit excited when you see Tyler on a bicycle in a music video? Did Josh know just how to work us?
Josh knew how to work us, because I am...
Taking it back to the streets?
Immediately invested. Anytime this band does like some small budget, small town type anything, I think that it is immediately way more... I'm way more invested.
Obviously incredibly reminiscent of like what they were like when they came up, right?
Sure.
How'd you feel about the song? maybe how did you feel about the song in comparison to the other two songs? That's
the angle I was going to come at it from. I think it might be my least favorite of the singles.
Okay.
I do like it. This song, I think, doesn't instantly click in the same way that the other tracks did. And as a result, I'm going to need to spend more time with it, meaning I could come out of it ultimately loving it more than the two current songs we've heard, or still maintain that it's not my favorite.
Okay, so whatever your level of enthusiasm was for the new album, it's essentially like still flat, right? Like it hasn't moved up or down.
No, it didn't fluctuate from where it was prior to hearing the song.
And you're still excited to hear this record?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at this point, I'm way more excited to hear what Clancy is than I was Scaled and Icy.
Yeah,
because I feel like by the time we heard some of those singles off of Scaled and Icy, we knew what the album would be, and I still don't know what Clancy is going to be.
We have a full month till that album drops. Do you think we see at least 2 more full-fledged single drops and music videos prior to the album, or do you think they reel it in a little bit and we don't get it all until the day it releases?
2 more singles.
2 more singles. Okay. Why was Josh cooking exactly 1 hamburger at the end of this video?
1 patty.
When he was expecting Tyler to show up with a packet of buns and presumably eat lunch with him.
I didn't even put that together.
A little confusing, right?
Yeah. I like the
what are they trying to tell us here?
Branding on the plastic bag that was holding the bread, the buns.
Didn't even catch that. Good call.
It was pretty neat. They had like Ned's face on there too. So I like that like all of this is still in universe. I don't know. That's the type of fucking 21 Pilots background I prefer, is like the subtle, just like,
you like the subtleties.
Here's a picture of Ned. If you missed it, you missed it.
Not the full on we're on an island with a cult type beat. You like.
Yeah. Well, I also am a little mad that this band has already seemingly completely abandoned stuff like that.
Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't have the little subtleties, but then also complain that they're not going full cinematic.
Fully fucking go full fucking cinematic, commit like fucking completely, or don't at all.
I mean, assuredly, we're going to get at least 1 more of those videos to kind of like facilitate the finale of this story, right? I'll be curious to see if we get multiple videos that speak directly to the more, fictional version of the band and not what we're experiencing here in the real world. I think Josh Dunn, in terms of directorial debut, not bad. I don't think it has quite the punch of the last 2 videos, which I was kind of like expecting.
When the chorus hits and they're like fucking blowing like leaves in Tyler's face in the dark. Like, that's good. Everything else is like, meh.
I saw a magazine say it felt very like Stranger Things inspired, but I guess like anytime you see anyone on a bicycle now in the year of our Lord 2024, you think about Stranger Things.
I don't know if I'm giving them that.
You're not giving them that? All right.
No, I'm not.
Marcus, are you going to give it to Knock Loose, who have teamed up with Poppy for a new single, Suffocate?
Suffocate!
This is the 3rd single off of upcoming new album, You Won't Go Before You're Supposed to, releasing May 10th via Pure Noise Records. It follows Blinding Faith and Don't Reach For Me, which have approximately 4.5 million and 1.8 million streams respectively on Spotify. The album will feature 1 additional collaboration in the form of Chris Motionless and Motionless in White on Slaughterhouse 2, a sequel to the track from Motionless in White's 2022 album, Scoring the End of the World, that featured Knock Loose vocalist Brian Garris. In an interview with Nick Nocturnal, Brian Garris states, this new single was added after the record was already completed once Poppy reached out to collaborate. He specifies, and I quote, I'm a big fan of her music and the art she puts out. Guitarist Isaac Hale had this to say on working with Poppy in a pull quote I gathered from stereogum.com. It was so fun because her voice allowed us to expand our palette and do some weird off-the-wall things that maybe we wouldn't do in another song. We felt that because we had Poppy's voice involved, it allowed us to kind of push the boundaries of what we thought was feasible. Poppy is later quoted as saying, I am a huge fan of Knock Loose and honored to be on this one. Poppy Marcos has stunned the metalcore scene this year after having worked with Bad Omens earlier on the massive single Van, in which she shouldered the entirety of vocal duties on the track. Poppy currently holds 2.7 million monthly listeners. Knock Loose head out on a U.S. headlining tour this week with support from Loathe, Show Me the Body and Speed. They currently claim 1.5 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Poppy may be becoming one of the most surprising but welcome faces in the metalcore scene right now. Like, I think after Van and after this new track, Suffocate, you see Poppy on the track listing alongside a metalcore band, and you're like, oh, this is the cleanest and easiest W that we will experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's
simply cannot miss.
That's it, right? Like the feature game is suddenly changing, and now
Feature
when
game
you
is completely
see
changed.
a feature list and it doesn't have Poppy, you're disappointed because you know that Poppy being present would have improved this.
I'm a metalcore band. I'm on the phone right now with Poppy's agent, and I'm saying, please, I'm literally begging you, please. I need her on a track. Like, Lord, I've seen what you've done for others. Because this, for me, far and away, is the best single from the upcoming album that we've gotten so far. I think it cleans Blinding Faith and Don't Reach for Me easily. I struggle sometimes with like loving a feature so much. And like we just had this problem last week, the See You Space Cowboy and Iris.exe. Yeah.
That immediately when I hear something like this, I'm like, we just need Poppy in this band.
Right, like induct them into the lineup, right?
Well, I hear Van and I'm like, Poppy should also just be a part of Bad Omens permanently moving forward.
Agree with you there, but it's got to be part-time because I also need her in Knock Loose. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and also like Poppy's recent album was fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, no,
there's that.
Done been awake to the absolute talent that is Poppy. I just don't know that we've experienced this side of her as we do in this Knock Loose song. Part of the reason I think this works so well is the integration of Poppy into the music video in a way that it feels as if she really is just part of the band.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like, and it's like everything too, right? Because I think that Poppy is featured throughout the video in a bunch of different ways.
Right. She's like the imagery that almost sells the entirety of the video. But for me, it's the simplicity of Poppy kind of like the camera panning and Poppy coming in on her first verse. And then that camera shooting over and you just see Brian Garris like doing the two-step while she's singing. Like for me, it's that level of integration. And I know that it's probably somewhat of a luxury to be able to include the feature in the music video you've recorded for the song, but it for me is one of the most integral selling points. Like that's when I believe it. Like that's when I truly, really feel that they are a part of the song. And like whoever the videographer was for this, absolutely fucking smashed it in terms of like capturing the essence of like them being together and performing.
Yeah, it filmed very well. I love the whole aesthetic of it. I love whatever filter is all over the imagery on this video.
It feels similar to their videos before, but for some reason, the Poppy of it all makes it work better for me.
People are also starting to speculate whether or not it's Poppy on the album cover.
That's fascinating. I feel like I have not looked at the album cover close enough to be able to like derive whether it would be. I need to go look at it again.
The cross is too big, bro. The cross is too big, and you can barely make out the person at the bottom. Also,
the fact that they added the song after the fact tells me maybe it wouldn't be Poppy on the album cover, but I don't know. Maybe the album was like well and finished before they ever got to deciding what the album art would be anyways.
True. That's a big cross. Do you think that's
a fairly large cross? Yes.
One misstep and the Satanic Panic group is on your ass.
That's a fair point, but we, like you said, we welcome them because they just help boost the culture into the limelight. So, like, please, everyone was talking about Bring Me the Horizon. Everyone will simply just be talking about Knocked Loose if this were to catch on. I
need to hear Slaughterhouse 2. Let's fucking get to it.
Final thought is just that I really like that the album was finished, and then Poppy called and they were like, hit the brekes.
We just heard Van.
We got to get another song. We're getting one more song on here. Marcos, Fresno have released new single, Eu Te Amo, E Tu Odio, featuring Pablo Vittar. That stands for I Love You, I Hate You, for those unaware. The track comes from new album Eu Nunca Fui Embora Parte 1. Forgive me all if I mispronounce any of these words. Released earlier this April. It's the second single following the title track released back in November of last year. Fresno are a staple of the Brazilian alternative scene with more than 2 decades of music under their belts. Earlier this March, they played the I Wanna Be tour in their home country alongside Simple Plan, A Day to Remember, the All-American Rejects They Used, Ask Alexandria, and more. Pablo Vittar is a Brazilian drag queen and singer with an impressive 3.8 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Their latest single, Falta Coragem, featuring Tasty Girl, was released April 16th. Fresno currently hold just over 530,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Marcus, what was your overall feelings about this brand new track and Brazilian superstars Fresno?
I'm going to start by burying the lead, as we always do, in that this is the second single off of an album that's already released.
Yes, that's correct.
Is it just finally getting a video, or is it getting single treatment after
Single
album
treatment
release?
After the album release. So
Nobody doing like Brazil right now, Sam.
as best I could tell, it's labeled as an album. It's only 7 tracks.
Okay,
They had
part one.
one single leading up to it, and then this is another single after its release. So we're doing things a little differently. This isn't like we're used to, where we
Anti-21 Pilots.
heard 75% of the album prior to it ever having been released. Yes, precisely correct.
I like the idea, though. And granted, we do see this on
You like
on a-
post-album support, I know.
Yeah, fair enough. That's when you say it like that, then yes, like clearly.
You like
We've
when
had
an
that
album lives
conversation.
on past its release date.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. This song particularly stood out for me. I've had people yell at us before, fans of the show, followers of ours, that we should cover Fresno, that they're very popular in the emo alternative scene. Explicitly in Brazil,
Apparently, we should also be frequently covering Pablo Vittar.
They-
3.8 fucking monthly listeners.
it's quite a bit. I don't know how much their music is aligned with the
It's probably
alternative
not
scene
fully.
but they killed their feature on this. I think the hook and the chorus is absolutely phenomenal. Which is really just them repeating the title of the track, but it works very well.
Great energy in the video too. Just like pretty much just a live performance.
I love when they open the pit up for people to have a dance off.
Yeah. Well, there's a really cool scene that sticks with me, and it's Pablo like standing on. It's like a surface that they're higher than everyone else around them.
Yeah.
But it's everybody sort of like bowing to them or something.
Right.
And it's just a very visually striking thing.
Like giving their respects.
Right.
I also like that no matter where you go, the scene kid looks the same
Same.
everywhere. Like
Exactly.
the aesthetic just translates in every single culture to
100%.
relatively the same look. Yeah, so this was cool.
It's a timeless look. It's a good look.
Go check Fresno out. Rain City Drive have dropped a new single Medicate Me featuring Dayseeker vocalist Rory Rodriguez.
Roll back, eyes closed. It's suicidal. Coming off your chemical. Make it alright for the last time. Take it slow. Numb from the pain, don't mess around.
The new song follows up 2023 single Frozen and its reimagining and 2022 self-titled album and the subsequent deluxe version, which was released the following year. Vocalist Matt McAndrew on the new song. Medicate Me is about chasing the high of a toxic relationship to escape boredom/complacency. Featuring Rory Rodriguez from Dayseeker, produced by Daniel Bronstein, mixed by Zach Cervini. It was a blast to bring this song to life with such talented people. This track is simultaneously one of our heaviest and most populating songs to date, a sneak peek into our ambitions and hard-hitting third album, Mark. So third album coming up, but we've only hinted at it thus far.
I don't know if I
don't know
look
what?
at this song and think it's the heaviest.
I don't
or
agree with the statement
poppiest
whatsoever
version
either.
of Rain City Drive, but it does introduce elements to this band's sound that weren't really present in the past. But it's more from like the hip hop side of things, which I thought was sort of fascinating.
Agree completely, Marcus. The band is currently supporting Dayseeker on their headlining tour alongside Silent Planet, Aaron Jones, and Avoid. They'll also be supporting Dayseeker later this year in the UK and Europe alongside Heart of Gold. Rain City Drive are creeping up on 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify, currently hovering around 980,000.
Good shit. Good shit. This song is amazing.
So Matt McAndrew, as you said, spits a little bit, and he does so in a way that is incredibly reminiscent of Nothing Nowhere, because the usage of the word Reaper in any song not by Nothing Nowhere is still somehow a tip of the cap to Nothing Nowhere.
It's almost,
especially in this cadence,
almost just by using the word Reaper, it's biting Nothing Nowhere.
It feels a little bit that way.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit that way. It's incredible to me how like you can't remove a word from an artist, and that they own it so deeply in that sense. But again, it's the style of the delivery. It's that cadence. I think that like really is why we think of
it.
That.
It is that too, for sure. But it also is funny sometimes when, and granted, like maybe nowadays it makes more sense, but I also would have felt this way about that usage of Reaper 3 years ago, 4 years ago. You just don't realize it at the time. But yeah, some people at some point just start owning a specific word. And Nothing Nowhere owns Reaper.
It's like their calling card. The same way that the Chase Atlanta guy owns
Yeah. I really, really do love this song, Sam.
You've been incredibly high. You've been tweeting about the song nonstop since it dropped.
I liked Frozen.
Okay.
I fucking love this song.
Do you expect Frozen to be on this upcoming album? I feel like based on the way that this press release
Frozen's
is
done okay.
talking about their next album, I'm guessing that everything they've done thus far is a lead up to that. So it would be weird to me if Frozen somehow didn't make the cut.
I mean, if you go back to
Frozen's done okay. The fact this band is creeping up on 1 million monthly listeners tells me that Frozen is probably performing fairly well.
If you go back to Better Days, like those first couple of Matt McAndrews songs were like out for a year before they made it on to that album.
Okay,
right?
so there's precedent.
Yeah, this could happen again for sure. And like, it's not like the two songs are that different by any means. One thing I did want to touch on before I forget too is like seeing Dan Bronstein's name and Zach Cervini attached to anything nowadays. That's like the new dopamine hit.
Help me.
That
Why is that the case?
When you would see like Joey Sturgis attached to something.
Sure, but why is that? Why Zach Cervini and Dan
I think it's
Bronstein?
just because I'm associating them now with like all of my favorite songs from the past couple of years.
Okay, fair enough.
Like they just happen to, like, you go and you check out like who something was recorded by or who recorded something. And 9 times out of 10 for all the shit that I've been enjoying the most, it is those two specifically with their names in some capacity attached to it.
They're the chefs?
They're cooking.
Sid and Carmi? Okay. Foxcult have released new single Astral Gallery featuring outline and color vocalist Michael Skaggs.
Take what you can because the pain comes slow. Reflections and shadows don't survive. So sharpen the knife because all the mortals will burn at the stake of the righteous. Carrying on the pursuit of a lightless dawn.
This is the self-described Seattle Stargaze band's second single this year following Wormhole from earlier this March, both off upcoming new EP, The Amethyst Drift, releasing on July 19th via Adventure Cat Records. The band will be supporting Outline and Color on their upcoming headlining tour this June alongside Nightlife. Foxcult currently sit at over 8K monthly listeners on Spotify. Marcus, this jumped out to me because this is a name that I've been seeing floating around the Twitter sphere a lot lately. And this is my first time finally checking them out with the release of the song and music video. And I think why it really stuck with me is because of the video in particular. It is just the vocalist of the band laid down sideways, just like sort of like staring off into the distance, but at the same time kind of into the camera. It just feels incredibly intimate. And I think that it made me really connect with the song in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise.
There's also this like heavy pixel filter over, and it's not like all of it, but it's like specific like lines of pixels that are just sort of like kind of moved around that really like help sell the aesthetic of the song as well.
Right. And it's combined with this like soft intro of speaking to the stargazeness of it all.
Are they from Seattle, or is this stargaze specifically like it's got the Seattle twist?
Absolutely love the idea that they're not from Seattle, but I believe this is a Seattle band. But love that idea. I love the idea.
We're a Midwestern band, but this is like some more like Brazilian type stargaze than anything else.
Oh my God. I love the idea that like a band from Connecticut would be like, yeah, we play Louisiana hardcore. Or like some band out of California being like, yeah, we're an Australian metalcore band.
Right. This is Texas pop
Absolutely
punk.
fascinating window of possibilities you've opened up here. Michael Skaggs nails his feature. A voice I feel like I've been missing. I haven't quite realized how long it's been since we've got like a new Outline in Color song. Like I've been a little thirsty for some Michael Skaggs.
Yeah.
So that's nice. I think they combine very well together, and it makes a lot of sense that they're now touring together. And that whole package is a strong sell.
It's a good tour.
So go check them out, Mark. Let's talk about a couple of anniversaries before we get out of here. Fall Out Boy vocalist Patrick Stump was released 40 years ago on April 27, 1984. Did you think Patrick Stump was younger or older than 40, or is this exactly what you expected?
It feels right, but I guess in my mind, I figured by now he would be older.
I thought he'd be older too. Like, I don't like the idea that like me and Patrick Stump aren't like at least 10 years apart, because he feels like he was so important to me when I was such a young age.
Right. You posted 2 other birthdays that really caught me by surprise as well. One is that Kellen Quinn is now 38.
Yeah.
But the other one that was most surprising and sort of puts these two into perspective for me was that Tyson Ritter of All American Rejects was only just recently like 40 or 41.
Yeah, it was, no, I believe it was 40 this week as well. So
right. That one to me is crazy because I always think
bonus anniversary.
That band being I don't know, Kellen Quinn only being 38 and then Patrick Stump is 40 and Tyson Ritter is 40 is like some mind melting shit.
Right. Like in your mind, these are like two completely different generations. So like Tyson Ritter should be in his late 40s.
Exactly.
Patrick Stump should be in his early 40s, and like Kellen Quinn should be in like his mid 30s.
Right, 35.
Like, the timing just doesn't play out based on like when all of these bands sort of like really popped off. But I guess that just makes Sleeping with Sirens a late bloomer. Bullet for My Valentine released Fever 14 years ago on April 26, 2010.
I would like to say my least favorite Twitter joke, which is unrelease it.
What?
Wasn't Fever garbage?
You're thinking like, no, you're thinking Temper.
Oh shit, I'm thinking Temper.
Bro, how are you gonna do Fever like that?
Fever was
fuck,
what,
dog?
the claw arm?
That's correct. Claw,
okay, Fever's valid.
It was Crabcore Arm Woman.
Fever's valid.
Not really a lot of Crabcore on that album whatsoever, though.
That one's got my favorite Bullet from a Valentine song, period.
It's
the
got
single.
the intro.
Yeah.
I was about to do the noise from the Day to Remember song, but I was thinking about the Bullet for My Valentine song.
It's like fucking 2 minutes of build up.
Yeah, incredible.
It's like a 6
like,
minute song. It's great.
Breakdown intro. Don't get enough of those.
True.
That's been an episode, everybody. If you're over on Patreon, once again, deluxe episode of SOTS. We're going to talk about Amy Lee, maybe singing for Linkin Park, but probably not. In Heart's Wake, dropping a new song, announcing an album. Enter Shikari, doing some shit too. $3 a month, patreon.com/SOTS podcast. Again, if you like the show, 5 stars on Apple or Spotify. Thumbs up on YouTube. Bye.
I could sing for Linkin Park. Here's my audition. Goodbye.